Let's try it again. Quick check,
Yeah,
quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How are we doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Been a long day, but a good day overall. How was your day, Coach?
Um, Rather uneventful. I didn't trade much. I
Okay,
took I took a small loss in the equities. Made some money in the end. Overall, I think I lost a very little bit of money, but
nice.
I avoided a beating.
Yeah, because there was a beating that somebody was going to take if they were on the wrong side of these markets and could not accept that they were. And we'll talk about that for sure. But welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap, everyone. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay, been a top step performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some of my experience and wisdom and perhaps help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. And you are all our audience. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out, joining us for a market recap. Uh, we were aware when we put this show together that this was at the end of the trading day, and some of you may have been watching Top Step TV all day or at your charts all day or whatever it is, and then saying, hey, you know what, the markets aren't moving, but hang out for another hour and let's review them. So I really do appreciate everyone that joins here every day, whether you are watching with us live or watching it on the recap or whatever it is. Maybe you use it as your market prep for the next trading day. We really do appreciate everyone joining with us. So let's get
Well
into these.
said, Coach. Well said.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get into these markets. So, as far as news goes today, we did have some pre-market numbers. We had U.S. durable goods come out at. I always got to make sure I read these in line. Uh, Durable goods. Is this the right number? Yep. Okay. There we go. Durable goods came in
Yeah.
at 0.9%. Forecast was negative negative 1%. Uh, we did have Fed speakers pretty much all day today as well. It feels like they've been talking all week. Um, Outside of that, planned numbers, we had crude inventories come in at negative 3.3 million. Forecast was positive 1.97 million. And they did it again. They got it completely wrong. Anything that you saw on the news front, Coach?
Uh, no, nothing. I really didn't keep close to it. A lot of sensational news. But as far as market-related news, nothing big that I've seen that would change.
Yep. One headline we have here, just kind of the market wrap headline. Risk appetite sinks as tariff fears sink in 3 days of relative calm on Wall Street were broken, with big tech driving major stock benchmarks lower as fears about the impact of a trade war on the economy and inflation return to dampen risk appetites. Nothing that we haven't heard already. Tariffs upon tariffs upon tariffs until they get delayed. And then the market is saying, okay, at what point does it become, the boy that cried wolf, and just the market just doesn't care about it anymore?
Who said they were going to not do the tariffs? Did you get a text or something?
I didn't get a text, but there was, we hear a headline that they're on and then that they're off. It's just like, you know what? You figure it out and let me know, and I'll show up to the party afterwards. Uh,
Oh, there it is.
right. Yeah, so who knows? Sounds like right now they're on, so the market is selling from there. But you know what Coach Paul and I talk about here, uh, the technicals tell the story. Regardless of what happens, the technicals tell the story. So hopefully everyone in the chat traded well today. Let us know how you did in the chat, and we will go through the quote board. There are 35 different markets we can trade with Top Step accounts, not just the equity. And today to the downside, we had wheat futures down 1.43%, NASDAQ down 1.87%, and micro Ethereum futures, our biggest percentage mover to the downside at 3.3%. To the upside, we
Maybe,
had, go ahead, coach.
Coach, maybe we should remove the micro Ethereum. I don't even think we can we trade it? Or
We
is it worth
can,
trading?
yeah, so that's the real question. Is it worth trading? Let's take that out of there.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Be
What
gone.
else? There's something else here. Oh yeah, there's like this other natural gas contract you can get out of here too. Uh, this euro contract you get out of here. Anything that's
Yeah,
trades less than 5,000 contracts, we don't do that. Get out of here. Um, except for
be
the Nikkei.
gone.
The Nikkei can stay because Dakota trades it. All
Yes.
right. So new quote board. There still are 35 markets we can trade at Topstep accounts. Maybe 33 of them are worth trading. That micro Ethereum contract, 5 cents a tick. If you have a XFA or a combine that's on life support, and you need to do some miracle work, maybe you trade micro Ethereum. But at that point, maybe it's better to review why your account is in a drawdown instead of trying to be a magician. So to the to the downside
Or
with the
fling
adjusted
100 a micro Ethereum. You could be a size trader.
right there. I think I did an example the other day when I was doing slow markets for Dakota, and I put on somebody was asking how to scale out of a trade, and I just randomly bought 5 micro Ethereum. The market dropped. I scaled out of it, and by the end of the position, it was completely red. It was a $3 loss, and I was like, well, that's not that bad actually. Um, for a 5 lot, I don't know how much you're gonna make doing that, but yeah. Um, I don't know. So with the adjusted with the with the adjusted quote board, we have corn down 1.37%, wheat futures down 1.43%, and the Nasdaq, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 1.87%. To the upside, we have soybean oil up 0.76%, crude oil up 1.22%, and RBOB gasoline futures, shout out to D, up 1.29% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. Uh, I have a NASDAQ chart up here, coach. Let's go out to the daily and take a look at what happened today. What are we looking at on this daily, coach?
Well, we failed that rally. We have not reached the 200. Interestingly, we've closed below the 20 and the 50. I don't think this market could take selling tomorrow without getting hit really hard. To me, that's a red flag. Looking at it in the present tense. So let's look at yesterday's low.
Yesterday's low in
We
the
closed.
NASDAQ was 20,293.
We're below that.
Yes, we are.
So the pressure's back on. I didn't expect it to come this hard, this fast. But the market, as you like to say, Coach, the market doesn't give a damn what I want to do.
Not at all.
So under the 200 moving average, failed this and failed fast. Let's look at the 200 on the half hour.
All right. And now, real quick, before we go there, we'll stay on this daily really quick. We just keep referencing this 2022 chart. Very similar. We didn't get the full test of the 200 moving average like we were talking about. That still has the potential to happen. But again, when that 20 moving average crossed below the 200 on the daily, these markets were heavy for a very long time, right? It's going to look a little different on a day-to-day basis, but kind of similar vibe here where buyers cannot take control of these markets right now.
It's next is that the death cross, I think? The 50 under the 200?
It's not far.
It's within reach.
Hmm.
Also, look at the 200 is flattening. Matter of fact, is it going minus? Is it going ticking down? Like, is it lower today than it was yesterday?
It looks like it. We quote the price every time. I don't remember what we said it was at yesterday, but it looks like it is. Yeah, it looks like it ticked lower.
Okay. It doesn't do that often.
Right.
It's accepting this lower price overall. That is not positive for longs. Um, so let's go to the half an hour. Boy, last night,
Sell it early, sell it often.
yes, that was, we couldn't even go back there during the day. What I found, so we broke early, never recovered even out of Europe. So coming into this morning, and look at that first half an hour. That is an exit to me of some type of entity, maybe, or getting short by a large entity, because the highest volume today in that half hour was selling, right? And it never, that was it. When we broke that low, and if looking at VWAP, it hit it 1, 2, 3 times as the high. That is an algorithm selling. That's not an accident. I was kind of surprised. Like I said, I bought it early off the 5-minute and got out with like 8 tick loss.
Great
And
loss. Great trade.
it was a great trade.
Great trade.
In hindsight, I came in to buy it.
Above the 200 on the 30.
Yep, above the 230, we broke the high in the 5-minute chart. So I bought it with a stop. Because early, by the way, Coach, nice trade this morning,
Thank you,
selling
sir.
it. But that first 5 minutes, it broke the low. I had my stop. I didn't even take 2 ATRs because it closed below it. Done. I don't need to wait for it to hit my stop. If it recovers, I can always buy it again. But boy, they did pick up steam, and I'll hand it off to you, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks,
What
Coach.
did you see in that trade? Because I was buying you. I must have bought your sell.
So we'll go through it, but first I do want to focus on you saying you took that loss and it was a good loss. I see some traders saying a couple things in the chat. I effed up today. I got beat up by the markets today and things like that. Coach Paul, and we all know it, on that 30-minute chart. If we can look at a 30-minute chart and the market's above the 200, as a default, the way he trades and it works out for him to a percentage where he can do this consistently, says, hey, when the market's above this 200, I'm buying it. So coming in today looking to buy is not wrong, because we don't know for a fact that the market is going to do this. What's wrong is saying I bought it up here and it needs to go above this price because that's where I bought it. So I'm going to sit until it either does what I want it to or completely blows up my account. Right. That's what's wrong. And a lot of times, you'll hear it, and and not anyone here. I know we got the best audience here, but oh, this guy's wrong. How could he think that's a long? How could he think that's a short? It doesn't matter, because there's a percentage of time that if we put everybody on stream, everybody in the world, no one is going to get it right 100% of the time. Right. So remind yourself of that as well. And when your trade idea doesn't align with the markets, you just have to pay whatever costs you're willing to pay to say, hey, that information I was looking for was wrong. If you don't, and again, shout out to you, Coach Paul, you didn't even take a full stop out. That's when we
No,
pay.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's when we pay way more than we expect to. Right? When we expect the market to do something that it is not willing to do. Remember, there are some big market participants in this game that we're playing. We are the smallest fish in the game. So when a whale wants to say, hey, or a shark wants to say, hey, we're going this way, if it aligns with you, great. Honestly, it was, we'll talk about the trade and how I managed it, but the flow of the trade made it kind of easy once I've identified it. If I was wrong, like Coach Paul was on the direction, he was completely right with that execution of the trade. So shout out to you.
So after you sold me my long,
So
let's
yeah,
go through that.
let's go through it. I'm gonna switch over to MNQ. Maybe we can bring up the executions just so we can see. Because there was a question yesterday from Chauncey about how do you scale into and out of trades. So I do kind of want to show that a little bit. All right, so uh, coming into the morning, I was actually looking to the short side, right? I thought the market was a little bit extended. I saw in the pre-market that we kind of rejected above that 500, right? Once we sold off, Dakota had a short last night in slow markets. Once we sold below 500, 20,500, there wasn't any volume above that, right? We didn't trade one tick above 500 once we sold under it, and that's a major level. And in my mind, I thought, for the week so far, we started off the week with a gap open and a rally, and we have not seen a real pullback. So potential for a short. Do I think that today's the day that we go fill the gap? No, that wasn't in my mind, right? But it's just, hey, let's take a short and see where the market goes. Couple of things here, Coach. We had VWAP from the overnight session that we saw left that opening range to the low, and was trending lower. So had that on my chart, and anchored VWAP from the session open, 3-minute open. And I wanted to sell. I said initially I wanted to sell, and I think I said this in the first 5 minutes. If we get a candle close below 430 on the 3-minute, I want to be a seller because we're under this higher time frame VWAP, and my puzzle for the day said short it. I almost shorted it on this candle, and I would have been, wrong on the timing of that trade. And this is why I wait for a candle close confirmation, right? Because this candle traded, 20 points lower than where my entry was, but it didn't close. And I've seen this happen too many times where it pops back and goes the other way. So when we pop back up, we rejected off of the anchored VWAP from the overnight and the New York session. At this time, we get a little bit more data. Right now, we have 12 minutes into the market. New York session is still flat. I'm thinking sell. This move happened pretty quick. If anyone was watching that tag of VWAP happened in like a second, and we were down 20 points from there. So then just go back to what the game plan was. If we get a candle close below that opening range, I want to go short. We got this close here. My first short was at 415. Not the high of the move, right? But I did this with micros just so I can give it some room because initially, Coach, I wanted to build a position from 415 up to 430 with my risk being above 480, whatever that was going to be from a dollar wise perspective, right? It didn't give me a chance. As soon as I got in at 415, it just just kept selling off. So it's just like, well, this is what I get to work with. And then at that point, the flow to the downside, we can see it in VWAP, we can see it in the volume. It was consistent. So it was just about, hey, this is one trade idea. It's a short. Manage that trade idea, right? So scaling in or out of the position, just taking profits and trailing where it made sense from a market structure perspective, right? Finding where high volume came in, putting your stop behind that, and then going from there. And that was it. Once we started to flatten, and I actually did take a long, because I got out of the trade. We can kind of see it here. I got out of the trade in the 300s, right? So I took about 100 points off of this. Shout out to Jerome who took the short also. But in the chat, and shout out to you guys because you pay attention to what we talk about here. A lot of people were asking about this reversal, Coach, and they were just like, "Well, we got higher volume than the open. Do you take this?" I know some of you guys took this trade, right? So really nice trade here off this low. I think why I didn't take this, Coach, was because that flow was so heavy to the downside, and we talked about this before, but um, the aggregation of time that I chose, the 3-minute chart, is going to show up different than the 5-minute chart.
Yeah, it is. It will.
Right. Go ahead, coach.
Is
Sounds like you got an
Anch
alarm going off.
oh, yeah, hold on, you finish,
All
and
right.
I'll
All right, cool. So, just real quick on this, the reason I didn't take this long was because these two 3 minute candles were both high volume. So I'm counting this as one, right? Are you guys, is anybody who took this long wrong? No, but the profit target on the trade to me had to be the high of this candle because that's two consecutive high volume selling candles, right? I did take the long once we got a retest of this high volume range, right? Same thing we did with the opening range. We close outside, come back, retest it. I'm long from 268. Profit target has to be this high because that's where high volume came in. If we close above it, then like we talk about that J trade, there's an opportunity to take a long here, but we didn't. And I did say it on the show as well. If we don't push above 310, I should be shorting it. I didn't take the trade, but you guys can see what happened after that. Um, so hopefully that makes sense. I think I'm gonna go back and rewatch that one to see if there was anything I could do executing better in that trade. Um, if I had to review it, I would take this short and probably not do anything else for the rest of the day. I did take a couple other trades later on, but any questions on that? Let me know. Coach Paul should be back. I
I'm
think he's back.
back
Hey, he's back. Um, so you,
nationwide.
let me get these things off of here. You were saying something, Coach.
Yeah, on that possible J trade,
Yep.
I would take that, and because with measured risk, we drop anchored VWAP on that.
Yep.
All right. Now, what was the risk? Two ATRs. Now, the ATR at this time of day is going to be near its highest of the day. This is where the
Right.
biggest ranges come. So I don't. So what was my risk there? Two ATRs or a, a close underneath, or even just a price underneath that. Um,
Yep.
it's it's a small loss.
Yeah.
It's a big loss if you're over leveraged. But you just talked before about consistency. I would. I didn't see that. I would take that price.
That's a
I would
legit
take
trade.
that trade. No problem.
It's a legitimate
And
trade.
yeah. Now, coming back into the range underneath VWAP is a red flag. That should not be happening.
Mm.
But if I would frame that out and on my stop is either two ATRs or a close underneath, that's it's a reasonable loss. I mean, they're not all winners. So when we talk about when I talk about taking two ATR losses, I don't. It doesn't necessarily wait for it to get stopped out.
Right.
That's the most I'm willing to risk. Boy, that just shows you how hard that selling was relentless.
Yeah.
And this was more focused on what happened here. The selling stopped
Right. Like yeah. Look
more
at
than
this.
anything. And then it picked up again. That was,
Right at that same spot, they said, "Hey, we just need a little break. We've been running for miles here. Uh,
yeah,
let's trap a
Gatorade
couple more
break.
fish." Right. Yeah. Right.
um,
But
so just talking about wins and sometimes as traders, we start thinking of wins and losses and not reflect. It's really about a process that reflects probabilities. But probability, I'd take that trade again on that buy. I definitely would cover a short. So
right. Yeah. And, yeah, and that's what I was thinking as well. Where it was just like and we talked about it on the show. It's when do we start thinking about that gap fill? And for me, it was under 20,200, right? So at this point, like you said, coach, you would cover a short here. And I'm thinking the same thing where I want to get back into this trade, but this is where the sellers stopped here, right? At 20,226. For me, the gap fill potential started anything below 20,200. They stopped here, right? So I can't short it here. This would be swimming in front of the shark for the day for what it showed us so far. On a higher time frame, if I zoom out, there's potential, but who's to say that that gap needs to get filled, right? If the sellers are going to stop here, then that's the low and we reverse. So from that point, that's a great for what we saw. That's an amazing trade. It just couldn't clear all of that high volume, which presented another amazing trade, right? For a short, we don't know this is going to happen, but when that volume comes back in, that continues to push us and really just, trend the rest of the day. We didn't close the gap fully. If we zoom out, go back out to the daily, we didn't close it fully. We kind of just traded into it. The high of the gap is 20,050. The low is 19,975. We'll call it. Let's switch over to S&Ps really quick, Coach, and just talk about this gap.
Sure.
How does, or unless you had anything else on the NASDAQ,
No.
tomorrow
Yeah.
or tonight's session, we tested into this gap in the NASDAQ. We didn't trade it in the S&P. I mean, I think everybody who's trading these is probably looking at that gap and saying, hey, well, it's like a big hole in the ground right here. Do we just jump over it? Do we trade through it? Do we forget that it's there and go the other way? Do you consider this at all, or do you just read the kind of price action to
I read the price action, but
Mhm.
I am aware of it. So that's a big gap. Now, from my early charting days, so this was a while ago, an elderly gentleman taught me that gaps aren't filled till they hit the settlement price.
Okay.
That's the way I was taught. So whatever it's settled there, then the gap is filled. Now, to get there, we'd probably have to have some selling, wouldn't we?
Yep.
I have a flair for the obvious that I've
Somebody's gonna have to
developed.
sell it.
I wasn't born with the obvious, I've developed it. But there would have to be some selling. So if that's going to hit, I'm going to look just like we just went through why you sold it, is reading the flow, letting it tell you, and taking proper risk. My gut feeling is that it's going to fill. We just closed under the 200. That's not, and pretty quickly. So, but that's going to, in my process, it's going to happen because the selling's going to take it down there.
It'll show
So
it.
who's in control? Just as easily we could get buying here and
Forget it, right? Yeah.
so,
So we will see. Let the market tell you.
let the market tell you. My gut tells me it's going to, but I got a big gut. So it tells me a lot. That isn't a process. That's not a trading plan. So the overall market here, it's kind of a failure of the counter trend rally.
Agreed.
That is happening.
From a volume perspective, I know Coach Hoop has been talking about this a little bit, and we kind of mentioned it. Anytime, if you guys are paying attention to Topstep TV, anytime we're talking about bigger orders showing up on the order book, they're always on the offer every single
Hmm.
time, right? There are not, if there's 1,000 lot order out there, it's on the offer. Has not been on the bid for a little while now. And what that means, passive sellers coming in and selling to the market, right? Or maybe pushing price lower. And sometimes they don't get filled to the upside, right? Sometimes we don't see enough buying pressure to go and fill those orders, coach. So if somebody's willing to show 1,000, right? Maybe they have more to sell, but if there aren't enough convinced buyers to go and take out their orders, what do they have to do?
Move their price.
Gotta move it. And I have no doubts that some of those orders are just going straight to market. And that's why we're seeing, some of the price action that we see on days like this.
That's a great point. Because that that kind of what you just described is what a um, algorithm that's following VWAP.
Right.
You can almost see the summation happening with volume. Um, Put it out there, see if they see if they can catch someone. I guess I don't know,
Right.
but nothing ventured, nothing gained. But they're not. They would that would be okay. Can't get it. Piece it. Sell 50. Sell 100. Sell 50. Sell 100. Sell them.
Mhm.
In their case, sell them every 15 seconds. 50 lot. I don't. And that would fit in line with what VWAP was doing. And it's very interesting. You said that these big orders are coming in from the sell side.
Right.
And that's a change in itself from just 3 months ago.
Yep. Yeah, where we were seeing bigger bids, and in the Nasdaq there were a couple of hundred lots and 150s, and they were like speed bumps, right? Where the market just ran right through them like nothing was there. Last year at this time, that was not the case. 100 lot would slow the market down. Uh, let's move over to another market, coach. What else? Where do we want to go from here?
Well, I guess we were looking for gold yesterday, or
Looking.
should I say prospecting for gold?
Yes, we were. This is a market that is in rollover, and it looks like it's in rollover. What are you seeing
I,
here, coach?
I'm seeing nothing. I, I don't. I see balanced market. Interesting. Stayed under the 200. Played with it. Um, I see a balanced market. Has it turned? Mm, No. Interesting though. What is that high volume? Was that the
Uh,
opening
no, so this is a 30-minute chart, and this goes back to March
yesterday?
21st. March 21st,
20.
which was the Friday. Was that Friday? Last week,
Yeah.
Friday. We've been in that range since.
Well, wow. We have, yeah, interesting. We have not found a new buyer from that
Yep.
point. Look at
Yep.
that volume. You say it's in roll, but that's a directional trade. I don't. They in a half an hour? Did it go from April to what's the next June?
Right.
Um, I don't. So they haven't been able to take that out. They've tried.
Nope. Yeah, on either side. On either side. Can we imagine what this looks
Interesting.
like? Flatline. So that's the trade in gold right now, right? Fade the extremes of that range until volume tells us otherwise. Like we saw the equities do, the 3 4 days of rollover week, we stayed in that range, right? Remember those daily candles that we had
No.
in the equities on rollover week, and
No.
then we talked about once rollover is over, do we start getting directional? Today felt pretty directional, so that's kind of what gold is doing until maybe next week. And then of course, tonight we probably rally 70 points because I said that. But
Well, for it to rally 70, it's VWAP's probably going to leave that range.
yeah, I would think so. All right.
Um,
Anything else on gold, coach?
no, that's it for me. Let's look at it daily really quick. That still hasn't. We're still above all the moving averages. Um, Finding balance. Um, I I'm not looking to get short.
Do you look at this as maybe an extension a little bit where we got away from the 20
Yeah, that's
a
another
little.
good point on a price basis. Yeah. Um, just, we did this. Look what we did when we made that about a month ago. We made that all-time high the last time. We went into what? A range.
Yep.
And remember, that lasted a while.
Oh yeah, it
Go
did.
fickle about these things. That's
Yeah.
why I stopped trading it a long time ago. Maybe I'm not golden trader, but um, it does these things, and then all of a sudden, like you just said, the fear index, something happens and rips. That's I think it's probably right now, which it's more probabilistic we're going to rip higher sooner or later.
I would agree with you. Talking about a market that's ripping higher, shout out to D, a market that made new all-time highs. Copper. Copper, just pulling
Yeah,
up this
wow.
copper chart really quick, made a new all-time high and pulled off of it. 5.374 new all-time high in copper. So maybe if you are struggling with the gold range right now, take a look at copper. Right, it's a market that's making an all-time high. It did it in a pretty insane way right here, where this 30-minute candle made a high. And what do you think, Coach? Did this take 30 minutes to do this, or more like 30 seconds?
Probably 30 seconds.
Let's take a look.
Closer to I've
30 seconds.
30 seconds? Was it really?
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was like 3 minutes.
I'm not shocked. So that most likely that's a liquidation order. Like, okay, sir, you're gonna have to come up with for those of you who don't position trade, you have to come up with margin.
Yep.
And it has this magical way of winnowing out bad positions, because you at one point either you're going to get out or if you don't get out, we're going to take you out, because at that point you're clearing corporations assuming the risk because you don't have the money. Lehman
Yes.
Brothers, LTCM, the list goes on. The beauty about futures trading is that you have to pay. It's mark to market. If you don't put up more money, your futures commission merchant, your broker is going to go, we're taking you out because we have to assume the position.
Yep.
Figuratively, and actually. So that seems like there was a bad short there that went.
You think they thought the previous all-time high was gonna hold? Oh, there's no way there's no way copper makes a new all-time high. Oh shit, I made the all-time high with my margin call. Um,
But there's some. I don't know the fundamentals in this market right now, nor do I need to know. I know that there's some shorts who are stuck.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that was nasty. And D said it was news. News expedites the move. Whoever was on the wrong side of that trade, and that's a lot of volume there. That's in 2 3-minute candles we had about 3,000 contracts traded in copper. And if we zoom out and kind of look, that's a lot. That's a lot
So that's
compared to.
why to me it just has the sense of someone was blown out. If
Yep.
you were buying that to get long, you wouldn't do that. You'd piece into it.
Right.
But a loser has to move. Losers
Yep.
move markets, and this is the DNA. That's why I look, because a loser, you either pay up or get out.
Yeah.
Going back to if you're new to futures markets, futures versus over the counter markets, your position is cleared in a clearinghouse that all the clearing firms belong to, right? And every one of those positions has to be marked to the settlement, not the close price, the settlement price. It's known as mark to market. Here's what would happen if that, and it's come close sometimes. If there's some huge loss, what will end up is if that person doesn't have the money, the clearing houses have to pitch in to make up for it before the market opens. That's the beauty of futures. There's no bullshitting here. Over the counter, as we saw in 08, now think about this. If you've been trading a while, if you bought the NASDAQ today at the high of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you bought 10.
Right.
Okay, you got about a really it's about a $50,000 loss. But you are over the counter and you'd say, I'm gonna mark what I get to mark the close. Like you might just mark it where you bought it, but the market is way lower than that. You're not able to do that in futures with the clearing corporation. And if you remember 08, the financial crisis, that's what really they were marking the settlement to cover their CYA. So why I went off on that rant is sometimes you'll see that you can't, in futures, you can't hide.
Mm.
We know this, right? You blow up accounts. But this one, like that, when I see that, that's not buying of some, doesn't have the flavor of someone getting long.
Right. What I do like about these type of moves from a volume perspective, like you said, Coach, this might not have on the way up. We probably had some convinced buyers, right, that say, "Hey, this market is trending up. Let's just get on the trend." This move right here, a buyer who may be taking a longer term position is probably not doing this. They can do whatever they want, right? We don't know. Somebody had to buy it to push it up here. But if I was allocating a big position, I probably wouldn't do it like this, right? I get prices in a range, most likely, right? Accumulation in a range for a better average. The fact that this is more than likely not convinced buyers makes this a great area to short off of.
When did they stop buying? Yeah.
Right, because they didn't buy it because they wanted it. They bought it because they had to, right? And if I don't have to buy it above here, when price gets up there and I'm a longer term trader, I'm probably not building a huge position in here. So every time we see price get up there, look at the volume. It doesn't necessarily, it's not increasing really when we get up there. There's a couple of spikes, but they're not holding. And to me, it's not a coincidence that we keep rejecting there. That was the liquidation price. And, you know, so in copper, do we see a continuation of this trend? Do we, are convinced buyers stepping in here? Or do we look at it as a market that's been in a little bit of an uptrend and maybe needs a pullback now from there? I don't trade copper often, but this is just a very interesting chart, and this could be anything, right? I don't think we have another chart that looks like this right now.
No, it's this that is such a severe move. And this reminds me of in the grains when wheat went from $5 to $7.50 on the close.
It's a big percentage
I
move.
watched it happen. What happened? And I don't quote me the exact prices. I don't remember, but it had a $2.50 move.
Wow.
There was an entity that was stuck short. They were forced to liquidate, and it was when the contract was closing. And it was well known that there was a stuck short, and how are they going to take the They got out in the last minute. So you look at a daily, a weekly, a monthly, there's this dramatic move. It all happened in a minute. That's probably that's when I see things like that, that's someone, it's like, you're getting out. We're getting you out. They don't.
Yep.
Wow.
Good
Right
stuff
up
there.
to the old guys, double top or not,
Yep.
or an explosion higher. I mean, save your pennies. Now they're worth more now.
All right, we got some questions here. Unless there's another market that you want to go over, Coach. We haven't talked about crude. I feel like we neglect crude sometimes, but it gives us good reason to. It hit the 200 moving average on the daily. Anything else you got on crude outside of that?
Did it hit the 200 on the daily?
Yeah, 70.27. It didn't hit it. It came pretty close. Got to zoom in.
Oh yeah.
D says
Um,
crude. Close to it.
Close to it. Let's look at the half hour. You know, sometimes we don't give it respect because it's been so hard to trade.
Yeah.
But it has stayed over the 200 moving average on the 30-minute. Look at that opening range. That's a pretty big range for the night session.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. What was the highest volume? Was buying? Yep. The highest volume is, so there's definitely there are signs of short covering. Let's see tomorrow. It seems to me that they're buying commodities again, except for the corn, which I was long. But there's something going on there. This market's picking up some steam. There wasn't even a dip to buy for large buyers, right? I don't call that a dip. It was bought early last night. Let's look at that volume. It was a night volume. But
pretty low.
Pretty low. So whatever entity came in as a buyer or buyers, what happened? It went sideways, stayed within that range, and then when volume came in, now reading the flow, reading volume, look what's happening. But was that London?
This is London. It's funny because our London friends in the chat are just trashing crude right now. D said it's like pulling blood out of a stone. Yeah.
Instead of bloody stone.
Right.
But when it started coming, the buyers came in, it's just trickling up. Yeah. So at that point, let's look into it. I'm not saying, just reading the flow. And first half an hour, they ticked it out. That looks like the way we used to run stops years ago. It made a new low. And here's how that game works. As it gets to the low, and defined as stop hunting, right? There's really not much going on. The book gets thin, right? It's been trading there. Now, the old way of doing it was, okay, if there was 50 left on the bid and it's on the low, one big trader or a couple traders go after it, say sold, take it out, and then say it's 50, and then say the price was like 20. Then you say sell one at 19, just one. And if there's a big stop there, it's going to go 15 offered. If there's no stops there, guess who's going to turn around and buy it as fast as he can?
Right.
And that seems that looks like that's
It's just testing it, just seeing what
testing
pushes
it.
it over the edge. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
One I could start a cascade like we saw
For sure.
in NASDAQ today. But if the other side is if it makes new lows and we didn't and there's no volume with the follow through volume, like that's why they say sell one at 19. If
Mm,
there's stops in, what's going to happen? If there's big stops, it's going to flush.
flush, right?
It didn't. Okay, quickly buy them
Yeah,
up,
I'm
buy
out,
them
right?
back. I'm
Right.
out. Here, I
Yeah,
paid
because that's
21.
not where they are.
Um,
Interesting. It's good stuff.
yeah,
uh,
that's
Speaking of which, Coach, we got a question for you in the chat. Unless there's another market that you want to go over.
sure.
Uh, do you believe nowadays it's easier to trade and be good at trading, or is it the same difficulty back in the days?
That's an awesome question. Each has their own different um, good points and bad points. The good points here, modern, is easy access. You have a computer,
Mm,
you have the internet, you can start trading and some money too. But as a prop trader, it doesn't take much,
right.
but you have access versus when you had to literally pick up the phone, call someone, your broker, who would then call the floor, who would then signal in a trade, get filled. That access was a lot slower. But here's
Hmm.
the thing that it's not changing, and I don't think ever will change, is the ability to follow a trading plan. The ability to be disciplined in taking risk. That has changed because the bottom line with easy access, the success rate really hasn't changed much,
Right.
if at all.
Yeah.
So
It's easier
what?
to get involved, not easier to make money out of it.
Yeah, access it doesn't, but what? That's why the focus still becomes being able to be disciplined in your risk taking, which is following a plan which has an edge over time. That all good traders have had that in the past, the present, and the future. And I think that where sometimes, and no, this hasn't changed at all, is the a mindset of I have to win, I have to make money, losses are bad, got to get on the winning side. That's not executing a plan. I've seen it whether it was in the pit or it's on the screen. If you're just learning, understand that. That's what makes a good trader a good trader is consistency. We see it with Coach Dakota. He doesn't win all the time. He
No,
goes through drawdowns, but is he disciplined? He does the same thing all the time.
all the time.
So one good thing is the ease of access. All right. Um, but the thing that isn't changing is trading with a plan that has an edge.
For sure.
That's the focus.
Good stuff, Coach. Player in the chat says, following a plan takes all the fun out of it, though. Dakota posted on Twitter the other day, do you want to make money or do you want to have fun? Winning is fun. Winning is fun. I used to, I bring up sports all the time. I coached my younger brother for a long time playing basketball. And, he was a good high school basketball player. And he would always had he never wanted to show that he was better than somebody. I'm just like, it's okay to do that, right? Like winning the game and taking pride in locking somebody up on defense, that's fun, right? It is fun to play the game the right way, because we do play this to win. So if trading is fun while you're actively in it, you're probably doing something kind of dangerous. But the winning part of it is fun, where you develop a plan, you execute the plan, and then the money, like, be very bored sitting at a desk here, and then all of the money you make from it, take it and go have some fun. Off the charts. There's a lot more fun that you can have in the world than staring at candles move up and down.
You know, it's a good point. Peter Stoudemire told me this a long time. He goes, he refused. He goes, and I couldn't do it. Don't use the word game. This is not a game. It was like he was insulted when I said,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's like a game." He's like, "No, it's not."
yeah,
He's deadly serious. Like if you have a game, right, or you're executing something that you're trying to make a living on or trying to profit from, and you said what it is when you're intense, think of LeBron, Michael Jordan, the GOAT.
right.
Yeah, they had fun, but when they were in the game,
Yeah,
they
it's
were
like,
deadly serious.
yep. And I'm having
So
fun just being better than
being better.
my opponent. Who's our opponent in trading? It's us, right? We are every day trying to be better than we were the day before. That's to me, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, great question.
All right, we have a couple more questions. Let's go rapid fire. M card, can the gap fill overnight? Yes. Abby, is the Dow lagging behind? Shout out to Coach Robert. I had a great conversation last night with Coach Robert. I mentioned, using Chat GPT to come up with a trading plan and stuff like that. So Coach Robert and I talked a little bit about it last night. He was supposed to come on the show today. We're gonna get him on maybe in a week or so, to come on and talk about some stuff. But he showed me a feature in Topstep X. If you guys ever want to compare two different assets, there's a couple of ways you can do it, right? Everybody knows you can click up here, do a second chart, and have two charts up next to each other. But I just learned this from Coach Robert yesterday. If I want to pull up the NASDAQ and a different asset on the same chart, I'm going to click this little plus sign next to the asset up here. I'm going to hover over it, and I'm going to say new price scale. So I have two different price scales. I got the NASDAQ price scale on the left, the Dow on the right, and then I'm going to go into the settings. And if you're, need to catch up to this, you can always rewind the video. I know I might be speaking kind of fast, but I have the NASDAQ chart and the Dow chart at the same time. Let's put the Dow.
Make a line chart.
I'm still learning, guys. Make it a line chart. Both of them?
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right. The Dow is blue. The NASDAQ is orange. Is the Dow lagging? Yes. If you're looking at this line chart on the daily, the Dow is kind of still trending up a little bit, where the NASDAQ sold off a little bit harder today. So maybe the Dow has some catch up to do.
Or, that's a good point. What is the difference between the Dow and the NASDAQ?
Different components.
Different components. Blue chip versus tech, or safety. No fund manager is going to get fired for buying a bunch of blue chip stocks.
Right.
If that fails, but it's an old saying: is you don't get fired for buying IBM as a fund manager.
Right.
But we talked about they have to buy. It's in their that's their direction, is to buy stock. Now, if you're feeling confident in the economy and in the background, you're going to take more risk, buy riskier stocks. If you're not comfortable and you need to buy, what would you buy? Walmart,
Right.
IBM,
CVS.
CVS. In the That's why they call them blue chip.
Yep.
Wow, that's very interesting. That's not friendly to the overall market. Why? Because if there was confidence, the NASDAQ would be leading.
Right. And tech is
Risk
getting
on, risk off.
beat up right now.
Yeah.
All right, we are at time here. Any other questions that you have, either ask them now or bring them back tomorrow. We're here every day. We'll answer them tomorrow. Coach, anything you got before we go?
No, great questions today, by the way.
Yeah,
I
good
really
questions.
enjoyed today. Like Coach just said, bring your questions. And I'll say it one last time, focus on building a process that you can execute consistently.
For sure.
Um,
Coach, you got one more question?
mhm.
When you say your stop is either 2 times the ATR or something else, do you decide that stop when you place your trade, or do you change it based on new info from the market?
Great question. I put the stop in. If
Mhm.
I enter a market, I have to have an exit. And then not just a profit exit, but how much I'm willing to lose. Now, that stays in, and like I think we had the example earlier, when there was a potential J trade, it closed lower than that range. It didn't hit my stop yet. I'm out. But that stop has to be in there. If you're not putting stops in, like immediately when you put in,
Mm.
you're not really convinced. You're
Hmm.
not really accepting the risk of the trade.
Yeah. It's like, I'll do it when I get there, when it gets there.
Yeah, or yeah, it's like, hey guys, you're in Vegas, and it's you're playing poker, and it's time to ante up. No, I will if I win. Literally,
Right.
literally.
Yeah.
So take it from that point of view. They're not going to let you in. You have to. You really haven't accepted the risk,
Mm.
which is very, very, very common, right?
Yep.
No, I just want to get in. But that's when I say there's new information. And it closed below that range out. No problem.
Take the next one.
Let's look for next one.
Good stuff, Coach. Good stuff.
Mhm.
Great questions, great answers. Another great session. Thank you all again, as always, for joining. Andrew, thank you for sending over the questions to us, helping us keep this show running. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button. Tell your friends and family to subscribe. Remember, we got classes coming up in Discord. Coach Hoop at 4:30 Central with he's going over fundamentals and a couple of different markets that some of the coaches may not talk about. And then we got Coach Ray and Coach Vince at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time in Discord. Of course, Dakota with Slow Markets. I'll be on with him at Slow Markets. It's Wednesday. It's my marathon day at Topstep. So I'll be on Slow Markets with Dakota tonight. And then we have Deanna with the London Open, who did a great session with Jerome. I caught the tail end of it, but if you haven't seen that, I would suggest going to watch it because they look like they were doing some interesting stuff there. D with the London Open at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. A ton of content out there for you. Hopefully, all of it is in the interest of helping you become a better trader. And that's it. Thank you for joining. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.